to Notable Talks, powered by Microsoft and co-presented by Value Prospect Consulting. I'm your host, Harsha Avasthi. Notable Talks, a talk show where we host notable personalities from around the globe. And today, we have with us one such notable personality, Mr. Krishna Rajaraman, CTO at Intellect Design Arena Limited. About Intellect Design Arena, a global leader in financial technology for banking, insurance, and other financial services. With uniquely focused business products, Intellect Design addresses the needs of financial institutions in varying stages of technology adoption. To start with, could you kindly brief our audience and our also viewers about the key offerings by Intellect Design and how you are enabling your customers to leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning amongst other technologies to drive more growth and become a future-ready organization?
Intellect Design Arena creates financial technologies that helps banks, financial institutions, and insurance companies lead their businesses on the path to growth and success, right? So our solutions, it helps move the banking world forward. Now, so what do you mean by that? This is a solution that actually helps the financial institutions to rely upon from security, scalability, performance perspective, because the functionality is given, granted. And that is something that has been at the helm of every product that we have enabled for the banking and insurance companies. We are global leaders in the financial technology. From banking, insurance, and other financial services space, we have been rated number one across corporate banking, consumer banking. And so with this rich suite of products across our organization, so we believe we are an authority on vertical and integrated products that enable institutions to meet their ambitions to be a principal solution provider for their customers, right? And if you look at primarily from the AI and machine learning space, the key focus areas for us has been with respect to on the insurance part, where as part of our underwriting platform, the Exponent platform, we provide the ability for a highly automated sequence through which we have enabled faster underwriting processing. And we have recently launched our iColumbus.ai, which is an artificial intelligence powerhouse for trade finance that enables a smooth processing of extraction, validation, remediation, and enrichment of data coming across the various document-intensive processing that happens within the trade finance ecosystem. And this, we believe, will radically reduce the time cost as well as the risk that is typically associated with these manual compliance checks. And the native AI engine that we work with, right? It's a combination of advanced machine learning algorithms, natural language processing, computer vision techniques that contextualize and process, I would say around 500 odd document types with 87% less time and with a very high degree of accuracy. So that's, I think, what we bring to the table for our customers.
As a fintech company that's ranked number one across multiple financial sector categories and with the seasoned experience of providing innovative solutions to corporate, retail, and central banking institutions, from your experience, we would like to understand that what are the key roadblocks that organizations in these industries usually face in their growth journey, and how has Intellect Design been instrumental in enabling such organizations to not only overcome these roadblocks, but also streamline their operations for optimized revenue generations over the coming time?
Interesting question. We believe the biggest challenge that we face is the resistance to change that the technology actually brings forward, right? And this resistance, if you look at it, is actually from two perspectives. We see a set of customers who are too aggressive and who look to either quickly jump along to the latest, greatest variant in a quick one to validate, or ones who are pretty reluctant in actually adopting something that's become more industrialized, ready, handling the kind of scale, volume, capabilities they're looking for. So the key thing is actually finding that the match in between, the challenge. That's been the biggest challenge that we see when we work with various customers. And another interesting challenge that we see is that many times the leadership team's vision, it does not resonate clearly with the actual team that's executing on the ground. And that again creates a different a set of challenges when it comes to actually adopting the technology and making the best out of it, right? And so we focus a lot on also getting all the parties on the same page to ensure that this actually becomes a very the full benefits of the technology that we bring to the table are actually realized through and through. So if you have to put it this way, right, there'll be always the constant challenges when it comes from a requirements perspective. So there'll be different needs that would come from the way the customer perceives the functionality. On the technology perspective itself, different thoughts, opinions that would come up, regulatory needs that keeps cropping up continuously. But many of these becomes effectively transactional, right? So in the sense that keeps coming up, it's part and parcel of the business that we operate in. And all of these are automatically taken care if the overall alignment at the top level with respect to the technology and the benefit is properly taken care of, right? So that we believe is the key thing. We build our technology keeping our products, keeping the next 10 years in mind. So that is something that we give the comfort to our customers, saying that you take our product for next 10 years, it is taken care of. That solution is taken care of through and through. So keeping that in mind and keeping that long-term success in mind, everything else then starts falling into place as these other nuances starts cropping up. It's automatically taken care by our solutions.
With solutions like straight-through processing, which is also called STP, mechanism for the treasury and capital markets, how do you enable multiple stakeholders within an organization to make more informed decisions? And before you answer that, we would also really appreciate if you could let our audience know what is exactly STP is, straight-through processing we're talking about, this mechanism, and how does it impact an organization's working at large?
See, straight-through processing, right? As in plain English it says, it's just a straight-through processing. There's no manual intervention. It's just a mechanism that automates a full end-to-end processing of a transaction across whatever industry that we look at, right? So it shouldn't matter whether the person is initiating a funds transfer, or they are booking a particular deposit instrument, or they are trying to invest in some mutual funds or stocks, or irrespective of whatever activity, the transaction that they are doing. The automation of that end-to-end processing of the transaction, front to back, from the time the customer initiates it to the time it actually reaches the actual system of records it's processing and getting it back to the customer as a notification, all of that stuff needs to be fully automated without any manual intervention. And that is what we define as straight-through processing. So this effectively means we need to have a single system to process, control all the elements in that particular workflow, assuming it's a sequence of steps that needs to happen with multiple control points. Someone has to check, is this available, that is available, is our funds present, is this person cleared for doing this particular activity. It could be multiple checks, balances, enrichments that happen, and all of these put together needs to happen in a smooth fashion. And that is something that we focus on a lot as part of our system. So since you touched upon our treasury and capital market space, so if you take typically in that space, it's you typically have 3 layers of systems, typically what we call as a front office, a middle office, and the back office, and need to say the actual general ledger, right? So which means any request that comes from a customer flowing through these layers in a straight through fashion and ultimately hitting my system of records and ensuring that everything happens automatically becomes the key factor when we are saying that we enable a full STP processing. So how does that actually help, right? The key thing is you do STP processing, my orders gets processed, it gets confirmed, gets cleared, as well as settled in a shorter period of time, which means it is more cost effective, with fewer errors, with fewer manual interventions, and apart from compressing the overall clearing, settlement time, etc., it effectively also means that my entire system becomes more flexible and it enables it gives a space for the business to expand through real-time processing and get into other areas that they would like to focus on. Okay, so our treasury and capital market products, right? They meet the requirements of commercial banks, they meet the requirements of central banks, non-banking finance companies or NBFCs, brokers, stock exchanges, custodians, portfolio and fund managers, name it. Our product actually meets the needs of such a wide variety of entities, each having different rules, different expectations, different kind of solutions that they provide to our customers. That entire gamut of, or the breadth of capability was what our treasury and capital markets brings to the table. And everything, if I have to add further on it, the key focus again always keeps harping on the manual process, right? We believe that when it comes to a digital transformation, the STP or the STP, when we are looking at it, we look at digital transformation from two perspectives. One, what we call as a digital outside, what your end customer perceives, sees, and how they interact with you, and the digital inside, which is what happens within your house, within your systems, how the whole request customer initiates, how is it actually getting processed. And that combination, the digital inside, one of its primary objectives is to enable straight-through processing. And that is where we believe our product suite, it supports various asset classes in a highly configurable and scalable manner, providing a very high STP processing capability, and that is our key value prop that I would say.
Technologies such as big data, AI, and ML are now widely used across multiple industries, including insurance and BFSI as well. With your demonstrated track record as a leader in the data for strategy mapping for the commercial insurance sector, we would be really interested to learn more about the use cases and blueprint design roadmap of data for strategies that could create a significant impact on the day-to-day business operations of the insurance sector. And also, we hear a lot of buzz about blockchain and other Web 3.0 assets to be securing more credibility in this sector. What do you think the future of the insurance sector looks like?
That's a pretty interesting question, right? Future of the insurance sector. See, if you look at it, insurance has heavily been document-driven and a lot of risk evaluation-driven industry, right? And so one of the key, which the very nature of that industry automatically meant, technologies like AI, ML, big data, etc., became the right choice of technologies to solve the challenges that are faced by any insurance providers, right? So our exponential insurtech arm of Intellect, which is our Intellect SEEC, it actually provides an excellent data-first strategy for commercial insurance. Now, what do I mean by that? So you take a typical example of a commercial insurance provider where they get applications for proposals for getting insurance coverage, etc., from commercial institutions. It involves the need for the underwriter within the insurance organization to figure out what is the level of the risk that they need to evaluate before they can underwrite for the exact value of that particular cover, right? So that evaluation typically used to run into weeks. There's the amount of data that they have to collect, documents that they have to collect, validate, revalidate, and whatnot, because the numbers that comes up are pretty big. So that typically used to run into weeks. And one of the key things that we brought to the table was the ability to have to apply our algorithms from machine learning perspective, computer vision perspective, etc., for a particular insurer or the underwriter to say, tell me what is the risk appetite, or what is the risk that comes to me because of this particular proposal from this particular commercial company. And that, by having the ability to assimilate data across hundreds, in some cases even cutting more than thousands of data sources, putting all of that together, triangulating, identifying the right data. Let's say I pick data from one data source to another data source, they could potentially be in conflict. How do I know which one to trust? So we have our algorithms which actually try to identify and prepare or identify and evaluate which provides more trustworthy representation for the same data attribute, and so on. And we provide confidence levels at a per attribute level, something that most of our competitors cannot provide. We provide that at a per attribute level, and ultimately helping that particular underwriter to take a call, not in a matter of weeks, but in a matter of days. Technically speaking, it could probably be in a matter of hours, but a typical human intervention needed for them to revalidate those data points and then take a call effectively spills it over into days. But then that is the kind of the impact that having a complete AI ML based focus, or a data first focus strategy for commercial insurance brings to our table, right? So the second part of your question was on using blockchain and Web 3.0 assets for securing or the impact of that on the insurance sector. That's a pretty interesting question. We believe blockchain will definitely have a pretty big impact. Why? Because of the need for the kind of data sharing that comes between the insurance agencies and potentially other participants along with the customer itself for various purposes. And we believe that actually would make or simplify some of the complexity that is present in the industry. It would probably take a little time for those use cases to mature into a viable solution offering, but we believe that actually has a pretty big impact or a pretty big outlook in the insurance space.
So during the pandemic, it has been proven that cloud is the key performance accelerator for finance companies to scale operations quickly and effectively. As Intellect Design, being one of the leading fintech companies providing cloud platform services, what roadmap would you suggest to companies to start with their digital transformation journey and create an ecosystem that could enable both stakeholders within the organizations and also the end user customers to make informed decisions with an experience of more transparency?
So the pandemic has had a pretty big impact, particularly when it comes to adoption of cloud, right? So if you look at it, the last 2 years, the amount of digital transformation that has happened is probably like nearly 10 years worth of transformation that's been accelerated through over the last 2 years. And banks have really accelerated the pace of adopting digital technologies for their customers as well as for their employees. It becomes very important to ensure a continuity of business, continuity of service levels that they would like to provide to their customers, even over the digital medias, right? So which everything then ultimately boils down to digital transformation, right? And if you look at it, digital transformation is not a one-time activity. It is not something that you say, okay, I pick this up, I do this, and hey, I've transformed. It doesn't work that way, right? It is a journey. But the key thing is that it's not a journey that you discover as you move forward, because that also creates ripple impacts on what you may have already covered as part of a journey if you do not have the bigger picture or the bigger plan in mind. So one of the very important thing when it comes to getting onto cloud, if we have to call out a suggestion, would be to actually clearly have a final endpoint, a final goal for your digital transformation journey, and take smaller steps leading to it rather than a big bang sequence, because there are a lot of things that impacts, and something that we have found a factor that's probably not discussed much as part of digital transformation is the culture of the team that is actually going to work with the systems. So a change in a digital transformation cannot be successful without a change in the culture. And the leadership team has to focus on how they're going to spearhead the changes and lead by example in getting everyone onboarded on the transformation journey. That we think is a very key factor and a key focus area that we would suggest. A second focus area that we would like to suggest is the choice of the partner that you are considering as part of this journey, right? That's again a very important aspect, because you do not want just a technology provider who says, okay, I bring this ABC components, I drop it in and yay, I'm done. That probably is a person who's giving utilitarian value, but not a partner who's walking the journey along with you, because that we believe is a very important thing, to have a partner who understands not only your current state requirements, also helps you flesh out that future state with the deep understanding of how your organization works and what are the key values, the fundamentals. What is it that you hold sacrosanct, and ensure that those alignments are put in place, and ultimately ensuring that your business is future safe. You need a technology partner who walks that journey along with you, and not someone who comes in and goes like a visitor. And I think that is another key factor that we would suggest that organizations should evaluate when they are going down this journey for digital transformation. So that's, I think, primarily 2 points on top of my head that I would like to call out.
The word design thinking has definitely become a buzzword today. Behind anything successful which has sustained the ever-changing market dynamics lies a great design going into the genesis of it. What exactly design thinking is, and what suggestions would you like to offer to your industry peers and growth phase organizations to achieve better UI and UX experience for both internal and external users?
Okay, first to start with, right? Design thinking is not just confined to UI and UX. Okay, that's probably what do you call an easy area that everyone attributes design thinking to UI and UX design, but that's not really the case. Design thinking focuses on a lot more fundamental things, right? So one of the key things that it espouses is you need to have empathy with your customers, and a very interesting or a different way in which it actually approaches problem solving is to say, do not jump into solution. Ensure you're actually asking the right questions. In fact, as our chairman keeps emphasizing, he spends a lot more time in helping us identify, are we asking those right questions? Because he says that is more important than getting to a solution. Because if you have the right questions, the answers will automatically be visible in front of you. And design thinking, by the way, it's not just something that we look at as an interesting aspect. It's actually now part of the DNA of our organization. We believe that good design is at the heart of better business. So anything that we do, can we apply design thinking in a manner that helps us connect to not just the technology part of it, or to say it's applied only to UI, UX as an area, but how do we apply it across all the three key pillars, the business, the technology, and the operations of a bank or an insurance company, to uniquely engineer solutions that give you that kind of an unprecedented value and making it a good collaborative experience, right? So I think that is the fundamental shift in the thought process that design thinking brings to your table. Not just looking at something as a solution to be just solved as a technology, because you solve something, there is an impact that cuts across the business, the technology, and the operations, each person having its own impact, having their own perspectives, and how all of that actually come together to get that actual value. So there are a few rules that or laws of design thinking, if I have to specifically highlight, right? The first law that we harp on a lot, less is more. So in effect, what we say is, don't try to add too much stuff. Don't try to do something more. Don't try to over-engineer. Don't try to spend too much time on one thing. Rather, remove redundancy and focus on really what matters to the users. So effectively reduce complexity, keep it simple. Now, we have always heard of the famous keep it simple sequence, but then you take a step back and see how to apply that across the board. Then you need other laws that helps you actually achieve that. And the second law stems from that, which is basically to say the last 2% is 200%. So you go to buy a car, okay? You have plethora of companies having multitude models that are actually being put in front of you as a customer. Why would you pick one car as compared to another? Because a car is just a vehicle that is supposed to help you drive, be it a manual shift or an auto shift. It just helps you drive, move from one place to another with having other passengers together at a high level. That's all it is. But then what drives a person to identify themselves with a particular model or a particular feature that a car provides or a car maker provides, that helps them relate to it and actually get that personal connect with it, right? That is that last 2%. And without that last 2%, every other car effectively becomes the same. So, and this 2%, we believe from that in the technology world, it is not the smartness of the technology. It is not to say technology A does this, in a pretty cool fashion as compared to technology B. An end user doesn't care. What the end user really cares is, how does it solve my problem? Is the technology helping me empathize? Not necessarily always. So what is it that we are looking to do to empathize with the user, to understand their unstated needs, and how are we actually providing that? So a lot of examples that are there to showcase this difference of this last 2% that helps really show how a particular product actually has taken pains to understand that last 2% that has really given them that 200% gap or difference in their ability to create the differentiation in the market. And the third rule, which is again helps you in the less is more, has to have prioritization that gives you 10x effectiveness. So typically you take prioritization, everyone says make it low, medium, high, or to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a linear growth fashion, etc. Right? So that's a typical approach that people take. But you really want to identify what is the critical item, change your prioritization levers to give you 10x benefits. So in the way that we approach it is to say we have 3 levels of prioritization. We have a 10 gram, a 100 gram, and a 1000 gram prioritization. So my best ideas, or the place where I need to focus my energy on, is my 1000 gram items, because that gives me 10x more effectiveness, efficiency, whatever value benefits that I'm looking for, than the second best idea, which can only give me 100 gram benefits, and 100x more effective than the third idea, that is 10 gram. So the traditional lever of evaluating or doing prioritization as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever does not really help evaluate the impact of the scale of impact, the scale of effectiveness of that particular option or solution that you're jumping for. So this again has clearly helped us identify which option that we are evaluating gives us really a 100x effectiveness or 100x jump in value that we provide to our customers. And that these three laws is something that we have found giving us a lot of value, and that we use it a lot today as part of our DNA within Intellect Design.
So how is Intellect Design Arena Limited leveraging Microsoft to enhance its end consumer user experience?
See, Microsoft, and more focused, if I have to call it out that way, Azure as our cloud partner, right? So there are quite a few markets where Azure is one of our key partners as a CSP in those markets. We've seen our customers, the banking institutions, pretty comfortable with Azure, the nature of services, and it's not just the services, the nature of support, availability, and the ability for me to quickly enable these various services and provide the actual benefits that the customer is looking for from a cloud-based solution offering. We have seen that as a preference coming from multiple customers, and our journey with Azure overall in all of those markets has been pretty good. Okay, so we believe it's a very strong contender in those markets, particularly in the banking space, which is very highly regulated, has probably tons of more requirements when it comes to security and other aspects as compared to other industries, which probably may find it a little more easier to bolt on to a cloud-based offering. And in that kind of a highly regulated, highly scrutinized industry, okay, a cloud provider preference coming up from various banks saying, I am comfortable with this guy and the services that they provide, etc. I think it also calls out to the kind of the efforts and the vision that has been put in by Azure in taking care of these financial sector's needs as part of your offering. And I think that has been one of the things that we also leverage wherever that we are providing our solutions on top of Azure to our customers, to give them the typical ask of saying, give me good scalable solution, I need this hyperscale, I need this, that, etc. That is taken for granted. But I'm providing all of these other capabilities that the banks typically are comfortable with. I think from that perspective, Azure is playing a good role and enabling us through and through.
So this is it in this episode of Notable Talks, powered by Microsoft and co-presented by Value Prospect Consulting. We'll be back with another episode very soon. This is me, Harsha Avasthi, saying goodbye. Take care till then. We'll meet next time.